Hello everybody, this is Paula Jasmine Gonzalez. Welcome to my channel. Please like and subscribe if you like my videos. Today is Saturday, November 6th. Today I'm about to get ready to go to the wrestling show tonight. New York Championship Wrestling present Tag Title Turmoil 3. And I apologize because in previous videos I was referring to Tag Title Turmoil 2, and it's not Tag Title Turmoil 2, it's Tag Title Turmoil 3 tonight at the Celebrate Sport Complex in Whitesboro, New York. I'm going to be there. Um, so I hope you all have your tickets, and I'll be around during intermission as I usually do, juggling and showing my clown skills pretty much. So feel free to drop a tip and take a picture. I'm more than happy to take pictures with fans and support me by purchasing some of my merchandise. I know I haven't made too much merchandise, but I'll have some of the merchandise that I have left. So yeah, feel free to purchase it. And as always, I'm happy to talk to. Feel free to ask me questions. I'm always love interacting with the fans. So yeah, even though I'm a mean and evil clown, I still love interacting with all of you. Uh, because without the fans, there would be no wrestling, you know. And and last time I ended up having a title match. Today I have a triple threat match. So I hope everybody's ready for that. But I'm just glad that I get to do wrestling and entertain everybody. It's been a nice title run at New York Championship Wrestling, and I'm delighted to be back today. And hopefully on December 4th, I will be there too. Um, so yeah, definitely I'm looking forward to see everybody tonight at the wrestling show. And yeah, this is my apartment. Um, Ah, it's just like the morning I had coffee. Like last week I was in New Jersey and I got coffee from Wawa, and I actually have Wawa coffee inside this coffee cup that I purchased in Wawa a few years ago when I went to New Jersey. Somehow I love Wawa coffee. I'm a big fan of the Wawa convenience store. So when I went last week to a wrestling show, not only my plan was to wrestle, but also I have plans to go to Wawa, and I was so happy going to Wawa. Um, it's it's because I used to live in Philadelphia. Not many people know this, but I used to live in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia area, southern New Jersey area, for about a year. I was working for the United States Environmental Protection Agency as an engineer. I was young back then. I think it was one of my first jobs after I finished college, and I was taking time off from my master's degree because I had taken student loans, and so I decided to take that job. And that was a year after I broke my foot in a wrestling match in the year 2000. In the year 2000, I suffered an injury on my ankles. I took a back body drop. For those that know wrestling, a back body drop is a move where the wrestler bends forward and then toss the opponent up in a catapult, and then when you're taking a move you have to turn your body and make sure that you land flat. But my foot got too close to my body, so when I landed my ankle shattered, so I had to have surgery, and I had to have two screws inserted into my left ankle. I recovered from that, but I was still kind of like taking time off to wait before I go back in the ring. So I was living in Southern New York and working for the USCPA. But then the bug hit me again, and I decided to get back into wrestling. And I'm glad that I did, because honestly, I wouldn't be in wrestling today if it wasn't for getting back into wrestling back then. And also, not many people know that I trained at the Monster Factory back in the day when Larry Sharp was still the owner of the Monster Factory. I trained with Larry Sharp. Um, he was not the actual trainer. We have other trainers, but like it was so great in terms of like getting to know more, because the wrestling style in Puerto Rico was a lot of brawling style. That was a style that Puerto Rico is most known for, the brawling style. A lot of the workers down there, they like to brawl. They like to brawl aside punches, kicks, you know. But I always like the technical aspect of wrestling. Especially when I was in college, I tried one time to be part of the Olympic team, Olympic wrestling team. So to me, um, I always enjoy the chain wrestling aspect, and that was something that I was lacking enough training in. So when I went to a Monster Factory, I learn more chain wrestling. They even used to have do a little bit of the tournaments where we do um, a little bit of amateur wrestling inside the wrestling ring, which was quite interesting. And that wasn't. I was kind of like, oh, you want me to do this? I never done this before, so but it was fun. It was nice, even though I wasn't very good at it because I never competed in amateur wrestling in Olympic wrestling. It was nice to get to do that in the ring and show where professional wrestling came from, the basis of like what you see today in the ring, because they are just modified to look more impactful. And so I enjoy learning that there. And then also the other thing that I enjoyed the most and I got most benefit was when we were learning about the ring psychology, and that was broken down into and very well explained there. And even though I didn't stay there longer to the point that I could be considered a Monster Factory graduate, I did learn a lot, and I appreciate the time that I spent at the Monster Factory in 2000 to 2001. Um, I mean, not 2000. It was 2001, part of 2001. It was from like March till like late December that I spent there. And again, I enjoy the time that I spent there. I enjoy the learning that I got from there because it changed my perspective about the business. It changed my perspective of like how could I incorporate those things. So when I went back to Puerto Rico after spending the time in New Jersey, I had already the skills and I was trying to incorporate that into my wrestling style down there instead of just being brawling most of the time. And and then later on, like when I move up to the area here, I train under with JP Black for a while. Um, then, but around 2008, my car broke down, so I couldn't do any more training or wrestling shows. So then Drake Evans opened his school here in the area, so I trained a little bit with Drake Evans on and off. In 2015, when I got back into it fully and to try to get back and get bookings and all that kind of stuff, so I was training there more often, once a week, getting the rust out of my body pretty much because I was out for so long. Um, and then later on, I went to Kevin Landry's Pro Wrestling Combine, and that's where I kind of like learn more about the psychology of the tag match, and I enjoy that. And also, we practice more heat drills. It got me more into practicing all the other moves that I haven't practiced in years. So it was nice to get that training back on. And right now, I'm training in Glens Falls. And also, it's nice to go through basics sometimes because sometimes you may not do it in a match, and then it's like if you don't do it often, you may forget. So it's nice to always revisit the basics. Because once you get the basics, the rest of the wrestling match is just putting two and two together. And then honestly, like I have always said, like wrestling doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need to have like a lot of like moves happening on a wrestling match. Storytelling, what you do with it. Um, so that's the thing that I feel like it's important in wrestling today, being able to tell a story. If you can do with the less number of moves, I think that's great. It's also nice to see matches where people show their high flying ability, but like think of it, you have a wrestling card and you are doing um 8, 9 matches. If everybody does the same moves, I feel like it's kind of boring. So you need to find ways of telling a story in the ring that is different from what other people in the ring are going to be doing. And I feel like that is one of the things that can help professional wrestling today. Everybody shouldn't be the same. Yes, you should have the same basic training and be able to do some be ready to take all moves that might be in the business, but at the same time, you don't need to use them. You know, uh, that's not important. Think of it of telling your story. What are you doing in the ring? Why are you doing it? What it leads to. I use the Michinoku driver. Some of the time I'm trying to work the upper body of my opponent. Because that's the area that a Michinoku driver targets. It's the neck, the upper back area. So my focus is going to be targeting the upper back area of my opponent. But um, if I want to go for a submission move in the legs, I'm going to try to focus on attacking the legs of my opponent. That will change the pace of the match too, because if you get your leg injured, and if anybody had experience, like it becomes painful to do certain things, so you are limiting your opponent ability to do certain things. Same thing if you attack the arm, so if your opponent use the arm for a lot of their moves, like they are going to be limited in a way, and that's what wrestling is about, telling a story with um with less moves as possible, and making sense out of it. um Again, that's my opinion. Everybody could have a different opinion, but um yeah, I still like watching Mexican wrestling, because Mexican wrestling is really fast, really high flying. But still, it's interesting to watch that when you have the difference between the hoodos and the technicals. And if anybody can watch that very closely, like you're going to notice a difference in the style and what the hudo does versus what the technical does. And it's pay attention to that, and you're going to see it, that even in the high flying, fast paced wrestling, there's still a difference of how the rudos and the technicals work. And that's what makes Mexican wrestling make sense. And I know that wrestling here have taken a little bit of that high flying style, fast style, but I think you are still missing part of like what makes the difference between a rudo and a technical, a heel and a face. So I feel like that's the one thing that my critique to wrestling today is that we still need rudos and technicals. It's always good versus evil, you know. Um, so yeah, and as much as I like the technical stuff, like I'm a heel most of the time, so I cannot do a lot of like technical thing, because otherwise it will seem that I'm overpowering my opponent, overpowering the baby face, which is sad. But I love doing technical. Um, Chain wrestling a lot in wrestling, and I don't like escaping. I used to do like an escape, like the classic wall of the heel, reaching for the ropes and all that kind of stuff, breaking the chain. But I actually can. I know how to wrestle, so I like to go through a couple of moves, and wrestle with my opponent, show that I got technical skills. But at the same time, doing that, I feel like it's putting me as my gimmick. Um, it's it's not making me look too much of a heel. It's not giving me the heel heat. Meanwhile, in Battlefront, I've been cheating. I've been choking people with my whip, and that has gotten me a reaction of being called cheater. And I haven't had that reaction in years, in a while. And I feel like if I'm going to go into that level of being a heel, I want to get into that point where people call me cheater. So I think I may have to wrestle less, which is a lesson that my trainer in Puerto Rico told me. You are a great wrestler, but watch me. So it's like I need to wrestle less to get the response of like being a cheater. Even though I love the technical aspect of wrestling, I have to wrestle less because most of the time I'm working as a heel. I like working as a face, and I will totally work as a face if I get the opportunity to do so. And if I get an opponent that is also very versatile in chain wrestling, that would be a match that I would love to have, just to showcase the chain wrestling that I know and showcase my ring abilities. Um, but definitely, it's something that I don't use often. Um, but yeah, it's been a very interesting experience for me being in wrestling, and I love wrestling, and I'm glad that the Monster Factory is still going on, thanks to Danny Cage. The legacy of Larry Sharp still lives on, and I'm happy I got to go there in 2016 for a camp, a wrestling camp. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and wish I could go again, like down there and wrestle. But I'm glad that Danny Cage is continuing the legacy of, and he's doing really well. So I'm glad about that too. Um, but yeah, I'm glad that I got the experience that I had that I had in at that time that I was living in Philadelphia, and I got. I'm happy also that I got introduced to Wawa Coffee down there. Um, so yeah, if it wasn't for that training, I would haven't been the wrestler that I'm today. Um, so and a lot of people don't think that I'm I get wrestling, but I try to keep my opinions to myself. I'm not the kind of person that is like, oh yeah, I know this. I keep my opinions to myself. I'm not going to criticize a match unless I'm asked, but also like it's knowledge that I have. And I've been helping like the students. I like to practice with the student where I'm training at the school that I'm training class for. I like to practice with the students there, chain wrestling. So they also get the benefit from learning good chain wrestling too. So I love doing that. So that way they can grow. And I guess I'm making my little bit of contribution to wrestling. I guess in to an extent, even though I don't see it that way, because I don't consider myself a trainer. I'm not the trainer, but helping other students learn what I learn what I know, to me makes me happy. And hopefully I will continue learning. And and I hope that this video is out there, and if you're watching, like, I hope that you like it. Anyway, I see you tonight. Tag title Terminal 3. Bye.